We're trying some stuff out here, so give us a chance. Hopefully it's working out. Each Sunday, anywhere there's a service held in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. If you have joined us this morning by Zoom, I invite you to light a chalice within your home. As Pamela lights the chalice here at UUFLB, our chalice lighting words this morning come from Chef Jose Andres, the founder of World Central Kitchen, a nonprofit that uses the power of food to heal communities and strengthen economies in times of crisis and beyond. And he shares, food is national security. Food is economy, it is employment, energy, history. Food is everything. Welcome to worship this morning. It's so great to be with y'all.
Let's see. That's it. Good morning. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday morning service at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Laguna Beach. My name is Pamela Floodman, and I will be serving as the worship associate this morning. And so many people help to make our Sunday morning worship services a sacred space, so I want to thank you all. Our Zoom and audio-visual techs today are Don West Jr. and Dara Skorecki, and our incomparable music director is the talented Carol Cole. And today we're using our cameras in a little bit of a different way because we had a bit of a technical problem this morning. Which is why the iPad is sitting here on the podium, but I'm hoping that this service is coming across well, both to those of you who are here in the building and to those of you who are joining us by Zoom. This morning, we are absolutely delighted to welcome Isaac Castro to our pulpit here at UUFLB. Isaac uses he, him, ale pronouns, and he is a recent Master of Divinity graduate from Starr King School for the Ministry and is pursuing UU Ministerial Fellowship. So first of all, many, many congratulations to Isaac on his recent graduation. In the bio that Isaac provided us in advance of this service, he wrote that he comes to Unitarian Universalism and he came to Starr King School of the Ministry through his family's multi-religious Christian, Catholic, and Mesoamerican faith practices. His identity as a queer Latino experienced harsh rejection within his familial faith during his adolescence, and he stepped away from religious communities for some time. And I know that many of us have had experiences like this. And then while he was an undergraduate, he encountered Unitarian Universalism as an LGBTQ-welcoming religious community. He has been a member of his congregation at the First UU San Diego for over 10 years, and he likes to credit his congregation for their college and university campus ministry program for planting the seeds of this faith within him. And he credits them for their continued support through their young adult ministry. And Isaac also wrote that he and his family are big supporters of animal rescue and actively engage in local community efforts for this endeavor. So actually, I'm hopeful that Isaac may have some great ideas for us on incorporating that important topic into future services here at UUFLB. Today, however, our topic is food justice. Today, Isaac plans to unearth the many layers involved in food justice. We will be journeying into the difficulties we face when living out our UU values and our search to find balance in the harvest that we share and enjoy. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, our first principle, and we commit to taking steps to make a difference in our world. This morning, we are looking forward to learning from Isaac how he was inspired in his commitment and how he is working to reach out in our communities for food justice and how we can join in that work. So thank you, Isaac, for joining us today at UUFLB. At UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation with a commitment to work together to actively dismantle systemic racism and oppression in all of its forms. The land on which we join together in worship is the ancestral territory of the Ahashiman and Tongva tribes. We offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care of the earth and for their teachings. And with humility, we commit to learning and working on behalf of justice. Whoever you are, whomever you love, no matter your age or gender, your ancestral or ethnic background, and whatever sincere questions you bring with you here today, really whatever it is that's brought you here this morning, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual, ethical beings, a community which supports each of us as we work to make a difference in our world. Throughout the service this morning, if you are here with us in the building, I invite you, if you wish, to come forward at any point and light a candle here in the sanctuary in recognition of whatever you are carrying in your heart as you join us for worship today. Do we have anyone joining us this morning who is joining for the first or second time and would like to introduce themselves? I can see in the building here that I recognize all the faces that I'm seeing, but I can't see the Zoom screen because of how things are set up this morning. Is there anyone joining us on Zoom for the first or second time who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, well, welcome to all. And if you are able, please join us after the service for coffee and conversation. I hope that you enjoyed the gathering music today, Grow Food. And this is a rap anthem to food justice. It was created in 2016 as a summer project. And it was produced by youth who were part of the Youth Employment and Training Program at a North Minneapolis nonprofit, Appetite for Change. And it's definitely got a pounding beat that will get your heart going. I have listened to the video multiple times over the past several days, and I really love how it centers the voice of a community on this topic. And I also think the lyrics are just plain fun, and you might want to listen to it again to catch some of the fun within the lyrics, because I know that poking fun can be one way to generate change. And I also love watching the kids while they clearly enjoyed making this music, sharing their message. And I think it's an inspiration to us to move forward and to take action. Our centering thought for today is from Dr. Paul Farmer. And as I introduce and read the centering thought, I think that Dawn will be bringing those slides up for you. Dr. Farmer was a humanitarian and a leader on issues of social inequalities, world hunger, global health, and human rights. He was professor and chair of the Department of Global Health and Social Medicine at Harvard Medical School. And he was a co-founder and chief strategist of a group called Partners in Health. And Farmer and his colleagues pioneered novel community-based strategies to demonstrate the delivery of healthcare in resource-poor settings. He authored multiple books, and these books are on my list of must-reads, although I have not read them yet. But I have chosen two quotes from his books for our centering thought this morning. So the first quote, "With rare exceptions, all of your most important achievements on this planet will come from working with others," or in a word, partnership. And then the second quote, "If I am hungry, that is a material problem. If someone else is hungry, that is a spiritual problem." For me, these words from Paul Farmer capture our topic for the morning. Commitment to food justice is a spiritual commitment, And it is by partnering with others that we will be able to make a difference. So Isaac, we're grateful that you have joined us today to help us along this journey. On the slide that Dawn will next put up for us is information about our summer services here at UUFLB. And for those of you who have joined us at other times during the summer, you know that during the summer we run something we call Summer Up, which stands for Summer Unique Programming. And this summer we have been focusing on the book Home Stretch, which was written by the Reverend Dr. Tom Owen Toll. And this series of services and discussion surrounding the book Home Stretch has been led by Don West Jr. this summer. And so our fourth and final service focused on Home Stretch will be next Sunday on August 20th, with a focus on chapters 8 and 9 of this book. And I hope you're all able to join us. And these discussions have been so valuable. Even if you were not able to get to reading chapter 8 and 9 between now and next week, I know that you'll get a lot out of focusing on the work from Dr. Tom Owen Toll, from Reverend Tom, and the community engaging together in this work together. So many, many thanks to everyone at UUFLB who works together each week to create these opportunities for us to worship together and to be together in community. And during the summer, I've noticed, especially because I was away for several weeks, how much it really is everyone joining together to make things work here. Our board, our worship committee, the people who come and open up the building in the morning and make sure that it's a welcoming space. And also who host other events during the week, such as the Zoom at noon discussion group. And many thanks to Paul Bogdan for organizing and hosting that group. And of course, there are always more ways to work together and there's more to be done. So if you're looking for a way to become involved, please reach out. I do have a particular point to make in that effect. And many of you know that for many, many years, we here as a congregation at UUFLB have been involved with providing food for those in our community who are without homes. And currently that work is done through the alternative sleeping location, and two of our members, Bruce Johnson and John Mendonça, help organize one Thursday evening a month, the first Thursday of the month, for members from here at UUFLB to work together to provide the meal at the alternative sleeping location on that one Thursday of the month. And one of the things that Bruce and John have noticed recently is, and it is probably because it's summer and people are moving to different places or not in the area, but they're eager, if there are more of us within this community who would like to get onto the list to receive information and opportunities to contribute on the first Thursday, please let me know, or you can reach out directly to Bruce and John. And they make it very easy for you to contribute to those meals on Thursday evening. So they're looking for additional volunteers. And I'm hoping that we can find some ways from within our community to do that. Again, as I said, this is really a legacy of this congregation to be involved with this work over many, many decades. One other announcement I want to make is first to celebrate the wonderful work that's been happening within the building here at UUFLB. The new windows are gorgeous. Many thanks to Paul and to Carl Kukkonen and to Oakley and others who have helped to make sure that this happens. They're gorgeous and they slant open, and we're getting a little bit of a cool breeze in here this morning. So thank you for that work. Other work that's upcoming is the repainting of the exterior of the building, and the board is seeking input from our congregation, from our community, about possible color choices for the palette for the exterior of the building and the entryway into the doors and then the doors. And so I know colors don't come across well on Zoom, but Dawn's put up here just a set of color swatches. The actual color swatches are here in the sanctuary this morning. They're back near the doors at the entry. And for those of you who have some ideas to share about the different options for what the color palette might be, Oakley, I don't know, should people be talking with you, or who's the point person for color? Okay. Perfect. And the board has a meeting tomorrow evening, Monday evening, and it will be a Zoom meeting. And so those who want to join the board tomorrow evening for the meeting, which will include discussion of colors, please reach out to us so that we can make sure that you get that information. Is there anything else about the colors and color palette that you all want me to say today? Okay, and you'll see that also if you look at the color swatches here, but Candy, that's great to point out. So on the right-hand side, the tan options were for the doors themselves. The darker brown would be the sort of the curving part of the entryway that comes to where the doors are. And then the two options of a sage green are options for the color of the building itself.
Pam, excuse me, could you, when someone speaks from the auditorium, could you repeat what they say?
The service for coffee and conversation. I think Isaac's going to be able to stay around for a little bit after the service before he heads home. And I know that he'll enjoy connecting with all of you. Really, connecting is the way in which we build community as a strong base from which we go out and we work to make a difference in the world. So now we'll switch to our opening hymn. Our opening hymn this morning is number 389, Gathered Here. Please stand as you are comfortable in body, mind, or spirit, and join Carol in singing number 389, Gathered Here, and the words are on your screens.
1, 2. 1, 2. There we are. We'll be singing, if Pam didn't say this already, we'll sing this through twice because it's very short and sweet. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near.
Let us take a moment now to remind ourselves why we come together as a community. I invite you to read these words together when and if it feels right for you. And if you have joined us by Zoom, you may want to unmute your microphone so that you can join your voice together with those here in the fellowship building. The words of the unison affirmation are on your screens. So please join me in reading. Love, the
is
spirit of
fellowship.
service,
And
Yeah.
purpose is law.
this
This
is
is
Our
great
great covenant.
to
to
dwell
dwell
together in peace,
In peace.
to seek
To
seek
seek
the
truth
truth in love,
and to
and to
help
help
one
one
another.
another.
So thank you all for joining us today, for being part of this community, and for committing to make a difference. We have come to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives in the past week. The joys which we share are amplified so that they extend beyond ourselves into the community. And when we share our sorrows, we can provide for each other the support and the care that are vital for all of us. So during this time of sharing our joys and concerns, we will pause the recording of the service. With the service this morning. It is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. And this is a self-governing, self-sustaining community where we recognize that it is a responsibility to do both and to do both well. And clearly our fellowship depends on the love and the generous contributions from our members. These gifts empower us. The gifts of time and compassion, humor, and financial contribution. And all of these gifts generously given are needed for this fellowship and for our continued good work in the world for today and for our future. So during this time of offering, we will be passing a basket within the fellowship. And for those of you who joined us virtually, there is also information on your screen with additional ways in which you can give. Stand and position yourself so that you can truly sing to each other. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
I offer a prayer addressing all hungers from Reverend Deborah Smith, which is going to lead us into our meditation time today. We are hungry. We are eating our daily bread and bowing our heads, and yet we are hungry. We are thanking the farmer and the farm worker, and yet we are hungry. We are speaking in spaces for food that is healthy, and still we are hungry. We are tiring of slogans that say, feed the children, and mean feed the children leftovers. We are hungry for something that feeds more than bodies. We are hungry for help. Help us, O you who apportion the funds. Find in your hearts the child who you were, who would share with a friend, free and friendly. Lead us not into meanness. For we are the hungry, we want the loaves, we want the fishes, the water, and the wine of sweet justice for all. We are hungry.
I think food justice is all about making sure that people have the tools and resources that they need to make the food choices that they want.
Food justice, the right to have healthy food in abundance in your home or in your community.
Justice in the food practice is we need to make healthy food available for everyone, independent of their income, independent of their skin color, independent of where they live. Everybody needs to have access to those basic foods that keep them healthy.
Food justice to me, I think, means food is available to those who need it when they need it. And that when they need it, there's choice available, and that part of that choice includes some healthy choices.
I got some green beans in here.
Are they nice?
Oh, they're beautiful. Highest quality I picked this morning.
So I think food justice for some would be access to the opportunities of healthier items.
It helps us get through the day and nutritional value.
To me, it's doing justice with the food, to care for it as you would care for it in your own fridge at home, and to make sure that it's being used by somebody who needs it instead of being put into a landfill somewhere.
It's about access to food, but it's also access to the story around food, and then the implication of that story on whatever community is telling it.
Don't mind me while I micro adjust this camera here so folks can see me better. Okay, I think that looks good. So okay, we're gonna go back. While writing this sermon, I began crafting something I felt would go well with folks. I had it in my mind, but I would tell you about some of the many layers of food justice. I planned on pulling from our UU sources and pointing out how food and feast have been present throughout religious communities for as long as history tells us. Adam and Eve got kicked out of Eden for eating an apple. The tale of Jesus, eating 5,000 from 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Day of the Dead, where people place foods on altars for the beloveds who have passed. Rosh Hashanah, apples dipped in honey to celebrate a sweet new year. The Muslim festival of sacrifice, where the sacrifice refers to an animal in remembrance of the story of Ibrahim and his son Ismail. How mooncakes are the hallmark food of the Mid-Autumn Festival, a cultural and religious holiday celebrated during the fall harvest. And I'm sure there's other food offering traditions amongst the cultures here that someone can share with me afterward. But in my dreams, my ancestors came to me and told me I needed to go deeper. So I planned on weaving those above with a story from a local city of mine, El Cajon, and their ban on feeding the homeless from starting in October 2017. How a group of activists came together, dubbed themselves Break the Ban, and shared food in public spaces until they were cited. In comparison, the city of El Cajon flexed its muscle with a $1,000 fine and even possible jail time for breaking the ban. And it wasn't until January of 2018 that the group was finally cited. And why that mattered is that it could now be challenged in court, because the following week, the ban was lifted. Still, my ancestors returned to my dreams and said to go deeper. So I began writing about food justice as a call to action after the immigration raids in chicken processing plants. In raids held on August 7, 2019, agents arrested 680 immigrant workers from 7 different chicken processing plants in central Mississippi. That's the largest single state immigration enforcement operation in US history. I wanted to call your spirits to this piece because before these raids, those workers were union organizing for better working conditions and higher wages. As things were looking to be in the hands of the workers, the owners, Koch Foods, quietly requested a raid on their plants. I wanted to weave in how the fight for unions is part of food justice. Again, my ancestors came and told me I needed to go deeper. And I asked them, how can I go deeper? Give me some kind of a sign if you're gonna come to me this way. So the next day, I started writing about wages for migrant farm workers. In September of 2020, the US Department of Agriculture announced that it no longer intends to collect data on the money paid to those who keep Americans fed. Today's migrant farm workers make, on average, just under $13 an hour. And it's a rate that varies by region. By failing to conduct the traditional agricultural labor survey, workers could be just paid the federal minimum wage as low as $7.25 an hour. And I have no doubt some of them probably get paid even less than that. I wanted to speak about how the fight for living wages is built into food justice. I was wary of my impending dreams after writing that day. And that night, they came back and said, don't craft something you think others want to hear. Tell your food and food justice journey. Similar to that video we just watched, where the last commentator mentions, it's about access to food, but it's also an access to the story around food, and then the implications of that story around the community that is telling it. My ancestors were moving me to share my story with you, and by sharing it, I'd be including how food justice affects them. And let me just say, when ancestors visit you in your dreams and steer you in this strongly, it's really best to listen and follow through with them, or else they'll come back. So here's the journey. Food in my family has generational trauma. I have a Mexican background. Most of the elders in my family were migrant farm workers at one point in their lives, some of whom still are. Many of them were also immigrants. All of my grandparents worked in the fields or packing plants at one period in their lives. My mom and stepdad used to work in the fields as children. They were as young as 8 years old when they started. They worked hard to get out of that industry as they grew up because they didn't want their children to work in the fields. I remember visiting my Tata Bico in the fields while he was working the tractors. I know part of those visits were because my parents never wanted us to forget where we came from and the hard work our ancestors put in for my current opportunities. Food in my family has love baked into the recipe. Some of the most cherished memories I carry with my family revolve around meal times, from the conversations while making food to the stories that come forth while sitting around the dinner table. I also grew up with large families. I have 23 aunts and uncles. I have 6 siblings and way too many cousins to list. All of that means that I experienced a lot of birthday celebrations throughout the year with a lot of food. Food in my family meant sharing with others. Giving to those who experienced food insecurity was important to us. We always invited others to join us. There was always extra seats, plates, and good food because we considered food, specifically mealtime, a sacred space, and we were called to share with others in need. And while I got those experiences from my family, I have to admit ignorance when it came to knowing about the larger umbrella of food justice. I'm going on 36 years old, and up until about 11 years ago, I never even knew it was a thing. I first learned the term food justice after an experience with my UU congregation. I knew about food insecurity and lumped it in with that right away. And while I wasn't entirely wrong about one of the aspects of food justice, that is still very far from a proper definition. I had to learn the hard way by messing up a lot. And while I can't tell you every aspect of my messing up journey, I want to tell you the very first time I got it majorly wrong, because that's the one that vividly sticks with me. I volunteered to host one UU young adult group meeting at my congregation. I was excited to host, and even the topic would be a conversation revolving around food, genetically modified food to be specific. I got a nice variety of light and heavy snacks and refreshments and was confident in providing a praiseworthy spread. And then it happened. Someone asked if there was anything gluten-free. Another asked what was vegetarian. A third asked about vegan options. And then someone inquired about something dairy-free to eat with the crackers besides meat. A few things fit into some of those asks, but not all. The truth is, I, a carnivore with no dietary restrictions, had bought food I liked, as I planned on taking home any and all leftovers. I felt terrible and small at that moment. Here I was just a few short weeks into finding this group, and I did this with food. I had missed the mark on many of my group's dietary needs. It didn't even cross my mind to ask about those things. I had no clue what to do other than offer my apology. Afterward, I went home embarrassed and felt I had disrespected some folks for not being as inclusive as they had been with me. So I started researching all those things I had messed up on. I was determined to expand and learn so that I didn't make the mistake around food again. As a side note, I did make that mistake again, several times, a lot. And after each failure, I made sure to do better though. I call it my time with the fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning around food justice. My relationship with understanding food justice began to evolve through this, and it still is. As the years have gone by, I've learned more about vegetarians, vegans, gluten-free, keto, plant-based diets, organic, ethically sourced foods, free range, farm to table, food allergies, food sensitivities, fair trade, and so much more. It's really a mouthful when you list them all out like that. I even gave up sugar at one point to see how much it was incorporated into our processed foods. The answer, sugar's in a lot of things that we don't even realize. I began to realize that a food war was occurring, with many battles simultaneously happening, from bans on feeding the homeless, raids on immigrants trying to form unions at food processing plants, the fight for wages for migrant farm workers, to food deserts where options are limited, to owning that the pesticides we must diligently wash off as worrying consumers are most definitely dangerous to those working in the fields. And honestly, just access to affordable, healthy food options and possibilities, because everyone deserves that right. And I want to wade into the new uplifting possibilities. I heard someone giving a talk about food get asked if they were an optimist for the future of food justice. They said, no, I'm not an optimist. And that's because I'm a possibilist. I believe in the active possibilities we can create around food justice instead of remaining in an inactive, optimistic state. I'm going to repeat that. I'm not an optimist, and that's because I'm a possibilist. I believe in the active possibilities we can create around food justice instead of remaining in an inactive, optimistic state. I like to say that I too consider myself a possibilist, and I hope you'll join me as well. One way I've done this is by being proactive in my practices. I have multiple options for various dietary needs whenever I host events, and sometimes when I'm not hosting, if I know the host doesn't actively participate in that way. It's become important to me to make shared spaces more welcoming, where everyone can find acceptance and belonging, especially at the root level of the food being provided. And I have to say, I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, and I currently do not have any dietary restrictions, but now I do my best to make better choices in my daily meals, with less focus on meats, an increase in the veggies, and generally a wider, healthier variety. I shop at farmers markets when I'm able, buy fair trade as available, back food unions, be in solidarity with migrant farm worker groups, support small food businesses, and have a better understanding of where my food comes from. And I still don't get it right all the time, but I'm getting better. I used to be intimidated by the numerous onion layers involved in food justice, yet learning in small doses has helped me develop tools for long haul work, and I know it also works for others. So let's be possibilists together and do small things with great love, because that is how we'll make a big difference. Amen, and blessed be.
Very good.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you for being here and for sharing some background and history, but especially for sharing your stories. And I know for me, there's stories I can relate to and things for me to continue to work on as well. So thank you very much for being here with us today. Now, please stand as you are comfortable in body, mind, or spirit, and join Carol in singing a true favorite hymn, I think, for many of us here in this congregation, hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment, and the words will be on your screen.
Please join me. From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding
Hearts and hearts and spirits
into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our minds and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our minds and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
As Pamela extinguishes our chalice today from service, I offer these words from our past president, Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray. Spirit of life, spirit of love and justice, plant in our hearts the deep knowledge of the gift of every life, of each of our lives, and every life as precious and whole and needed. May we find ways to lean more deeply into practices that nurture wholeness and belonging in all of our communities and in our world. It's been great being in service with all of you. Thank you.
Please join me in singing Let There Be Peace on Earth. If you'd like to join each other, that's great. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment, live each moment in peace, eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Have a lovely day.